7:55 p.m. October 12th, 2019, off of Walnut Street, Gift Street, Columbus, Ohio. Microwave itself, I was cooking in it. I went to come back, I opened up the door. I went to close the door. I was doing some boiling a little bit of water, about 4 minutes. I went to put some ramen in and came back, and the touchpad all of a sudden stopped working. They keep playing around. It was my older brother that bought this microwave quite a few years ago, and they keep utilizing him as basically like a social assault. That's Janara Torres, Thomas Stuckman, Carl Newman, and there's a few other affiliates on top of just whatever orchestrated, organized situation that they have going on, because it's more than just a few. Their whole organized situation against me, targeting me, accounts for many, including corrupt law enforcement. Anyways, you also have quite a few blacks right now being the predominant domination of problems off of Town and Gift Street, running their mouths, and the police, while they're profiling, we know what you just did, or, you shouldn't take a leak behind that building in the park, or you should be taking a leak underneath the bridge. Something dumb. It isn't dumb because it's illegal to take a piss in public, but that's not the point. But something minor. Say something that's still illegal, but it's minor, and them trying to produce, we was watching you, but they can't pick up on the things that are happening up and around me, drug dealing, gangbanging, or anything else, especially, and on top, profiling these other people and ostracizing them. It's been criminally charged in other states, corruption from the police for profiling, joyriding around in their police cars, and law enforcement. I won't do just police, law enforcement and other government officials, including mental health. But to get back to the point, hopefully it'll work back here in a second, but Janara Torres has been utilizing my brother's name, not just your brother, but the type of call out in his name, like an honorance. Gang affiliated homosexual organized crime, because they're all homosexuals, and hey, you don't talk about my kind of people. Your brother is my star. He's my hero type of situation. So, anyways, with that being said, all of a sudden I'm having electronic problems with the microwave. Within the last couple of months, I've had different hard drives give out, different SD cards give out, all the talk about electronic interference. Now I got some black voice in here trying to utilize it as if they're utilizing Janara Torres and Thomas Stuckman, supposedly, which has been exposed, undercover. They expose themselves as being undercover law enforcement, that they have a rights to utilize force against me as regulating what electronics I get to use, eavesdropping, and everything else. I was told by a lawyer, for anybody that was needing to know this, they need an electronic warrant, and some of the stuff that was being talked about, they just don't have a right to do, even if they're doing it. But they're utilizing force of threat, that what you gonna do about it? One, we're law enforcement. Two, it makes you look schizophrenic, retarded, disabled. Three, no matter what compiles, what you gonna do about it, bitch? Utilizing all kinds of different connections and connectors and all kinds of supposed lawful shit, but it's really, a lot of it I'm almost sure is not, because it's been busted elsewhere, including Colorado Springs, which used to be home, but there is a mass breakdown and crackdown. The same exactly organized, orchestrated shit that happened, and that literally people going to prison for 2.5 years for waving out their windows for being gang affiliated or group affiliated. The same orchestration and intelligence and same traits, characteristics, and the same thing happening here in Columbus, Ohio, and has been. Even that's been about 13 years ago since that situation happened, since I left Colorado. With that being said, the same thing happening here, and it's always been said, Columbus, Ohio was the ground roots of the organizational roots of who started targeting myself, and it was started being picked up in other states, not just Colorado Springs, Colorado, but other states, multitudes. I was traveling and hiking on the highway, and they would pick up, and hey, somebody's stalking you, trying to investigate a little farther, we just need some information from you, and apparently, like, states pick up the charges, and even if they don't, doesn't matter, it was still pit up against me, whatnot. I have some type of Italian influence, which I'll get into later, like they're playing, and it ain't even like they're playing Italian Mob, but anyways, I have say-so in the community. I rule your house. We're eavesdropping. I'll behaviorally control you. I'm controlling you and enforcing sanctions against you. I was told by the system, the county mental health system, legally advised they do not have a right to sanction shit. None of them. None of them have the rights to be carrying out what seems to be civil suits and civil liability suits without the proper paperwork filed. And when I was at the facility that I was in, it was mandatorily for them to look into it and allow me to know legally if I have civil suits or sanctions. And the sanctions would have to be signed by the county as a county sanction for mental health, which never was. It's understood I'm being targeted. It's understood to a certain point. Not everybody understanding it, but it's being understood in the smallest factors of those who I allowed to be known. But who knows what corruption comes through that and who can be persuaded and flipped later. But I've been elsewhere. There has been paperwork. There's other witnesses. There's perfectly good strangers that could witness shit that isn't right and be able to respond back and say, hey, this should be stable enough to say this is ground standing, without me having to worry about what kind of corruption has been involved due to somebody, your brother, but it ain't even just that, saying his name, or understanding what I understood his name, like he's better than I am, or like that's my hero, what you gonna do about it? And basically, and it ain't even basically, just outright in my face, disrespecting me, disregarding me, and telling me he's like godfather of the power play, and they're going to keep fucking with me until I get away from, and this house has been owned by my grandfather. He passed away, so it's been in the family for many, 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 many years, until I get the fuck away from his neighborhood, this, that, those. They took it upon themselves to create some of the social situation. It ain't even my older brother doing it. They're taking it upon themselves for homosexual organized crime, literally. Homosexual pride, and I have explained that in the past, and it's been understood by law enforcement, like in New York City and elsewhere. All you have to do is add 1 plus 1. If 90% of the group that's attacking him, especially utilizing the certain techniques, tactics, characteristic, and traits are all homosexual, and homosexual tactics can be understood, associated, wouldn't you say that'd be homosexual group criming? It'd be no different than a homosexual gang, homosexual mob, mafia. Who knows which type of grouping they're trying to take and what type of affiliation. Is it mob, clique, gang, thug, organized crime in certain ways? Doesn't matter. It's all still a group affiliated criminal alligatable situation. Except for you have corrupt cops working on the inside, trying to find the loopholes in the system and utilizing their force of blue gang bitch code that they got the rights to play around with whatever they want and authoritate what they want. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and plug this microwave in. The microwave seemed to have worked because it was still spinning and stopped and beeped, but the control panel did not work. So I'm going to give it some time and then plug it back in. I'm sure it's electronic jamming because I'm over here in little into Windows and they're trying to play your schizophrenic. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. There it is. All of a sudden, look at that, all the digits work, whatnot. That's kind of cool. I had to pull the plug on it, and all of a sudden I'm plugging it and plugging back in. Why would that have to happen? They've been interfering with multitudes of electronics, just to put real quick in the video, besides erasing failure of hard drives with actual data. They was calling out Al-Qaeda on the 4th of July loudly. I went out and did videos after the hard drive failed out, I think. No, I take that back. The hard drive failed out 3 days later, or I found it where it wasn't operational. And it couldn't have been no more than 24 hours, because if it was bad, it would have told me when the system restarted that the drive went bad. So it was within that time where I was planning, and I went in and I went to go search the data to pull the data off of the microphone and the camera that was recording that, and I got mixed up. I was cooking or something, and I went back to the system to draw those files because I was trying to search through the time dates, or the time exact. And also, technically I already knew the time, but I was also trying to get other data, and I was pulling that data in, and the drive all of a sudden failed out. I also have an SD card that failed out 3 days after I started complaining of electronic jamming of the phones. the SD card falls out. There's multitudes of different phones, tablets, MP3 players, everything electronic, including furnaces, refrigerators, electrical, period. Anything with informational data they're trying to get to. I will say this, I do have data storage of multitudes of 6 to 10 years worth of videos on hard drives here in the house, and plugging them in, there's been some type of situation where I've had other electronics, even though the hard drive's not plugged in, giving around that hard drive, or giving out around those hard drives, the electronics themselves. Either the battery's gone out, or whatever it be. Somebody is in here targeting, and the police, law enforcement, and government is allowing it. They're trying to also utilize force of pressure that you don't have a right, where law enforcement will tell you what you got a right to. You're under investigation, so we don't want you doing this. Do I not, if I'm under investigation as a defendant, have the right to build my own evidence and build my own case? While being threatened, if I do, I'll have harm done to me. Not just systematical assault, rape, which has happened, assaults, community rioting, all kinds of different things, including interstate stalking. Other states, other cities will get to you however we have to. And in a mass amount of group orchestrated illegal fucking criminal activity. I'm going to go ahead and end this video. That's that. Once again, it's October 12th, 2019. It is, as of right now, 8:08 p.m. I know at least 7:55 I came back to the microwave and the touchpad wouldn't work. The microwave was working, but the touchpad. But now the touchpad all of a sudden works. Anyways, electronically jamming, interfering. Anything electronical, burning shit up. And if it ain't just burn up, literally interfering with it to the point you can't push buttons, like a USB jammer, a cell phone jammer, all kinds of computer network shit, which takes a lot of money. But these people, if you have 50 people together, if they donated $1 a day, that's $30 a month times 50. How much money is that? And then take it into a year, and just do a whole resource of treasury funding type of situation. Read in, and like I have, read into and utilize DEA if you wanted to, if you're interested in getting that information, statistics of how they treasurize their organized crime. How they produce and afford their shit, especially like in a targeted situation for myself. Why would they want to spend money on targeting an individual? One, they have it. Two, how do they have it? And that's how they have it, is orchestrating the treasury type of funding to it. I was explained in Colorado by military and somebody trustworthy enough of actually being basically a treasurer to an organized crime group. That's one of the situations of how they keep money. Literally say you got 50 people associated type of situation, donate $1 a day, that's $30 a month between the 50. That's a shitload of money. That's 10 times 50 is what? $500? Now you do that by 30, that's $1,500 a month. Save up, say $20,000 a year, you can buy electronic. You start out, and it could take many years, and you can also source your funds from elsewhere. But within a year, simple cell phone jammers, computer jamming, get somebody professional enough to get you a GPS jammer, computer jamming, Bluetooth, orchestrating controller, USB controllers, which was found in the New York City Public Library. They brought in an oscillator and found somebody was intentionally jamming people's mice that was utilizing the free PCs in the New York City Public Library, 42nd Street, 5th Avenue. But not only that, hard drives, and I was there, so it might have been just me being targeted and everybody else affected, but being able to utilize, say, a USB thumb drive and not being able to get access, and that was years ago, more than 11, 12, 13 years ago. But it continued. I mean, that incident itself of the investigation and finding happened. The situation of the criminal situation, it never stopped. When I say criminal, it's law enforcement. We can blame systematically, and these guys are intelligently trying to intelligize themselves with loopholes in the system, applying themselves to being police officers, law enforcement, involved in the system to corrupt the system. Even if not, they're getting the books and the information to learn how the system works, and then utilizing it, trying to play whatever they can, even if they have to. And that was also found out, perjurizing and sabotaging. When you're law enforcement, being associated on the job, joyriding around in a police vehicle, participating with neighborhood harassment and crime, vehicle slander, assault, or verbalization, vehicular harassment. Yeah, it's time for somebody to take notice and understand what the fuck that means. While you're mentally retarded, you've been caused this way, but we don't give a shit. That's what you get. That's what our people want from you. We want you to be retarded, so we have the rights to orchestrate this. It entertains us. I've been told this by the mental health system. Power control freaks, they get a thrill, the entertainment from having that type of control. Yes, it is actually still good for the mind and body. It's socially good. You got a group that respects a person, gives them pride, irony, they give them respect for disrespecting myself or a targeted individual. Then yes, that's also worth, it's no different than taking a bribe. It's worth money, even though it's not in a money form. That is the same thing by legal law as being assetable value. But anyhow, they're gaining, if it's legally by law assetable as an asset, as a bribery or an ability to be worth value, then it's worth value. It's not just, hey, it seems to be value. It is by legal terms worth value. I'm going to go ahead and end this video and try this situation here. I'm going to put this on 2 minutes. Start my situation up. There's the Roman noodles I was talking about, and that'll be that. Peace.